Hello, I'm Earl Lane, Executive Director of the AAAS Kavli Science Journalism Awards. Welcome to our virtual ceremony for the 2022 winners of these international awards, which are endowed by the Kavli Foundation. A lot goes into making this contest a success, including the help of more than 80 screeners who assess the scientific accuracy of the entries, and the diligent work of the judging panels of journalists who selected another outstanding group of winners. We had entries from a record 63 countries this year, and the winners include journalists from China, India, Australia, South Korea, Germany, and the United Kingdom. Laura Helmuth, Editor-in-Chief of Scientific American and a longtime judge for the contest, will be our moderator. Laura?
Thank you, Earl. Welcome, everyone. Thanks to the Kavli Foundation and AAAS for this inspiring awards program. And thanks to all of you for joining us to celebrate the best science journalism of the year. As a judge for these awards, it's a thrill to see the excellent entries. It feels like they keep getting better every year, and it's a very competitive award. We think you're going to enjoy hearing from this year's winners and learning about their experiences. Now here is Sudip Parikh, AAAS CEO and executive publisher of the Science family of journals.
Thank you, Laura. I love these awards so much. Each year, they spotlight not only the outstanding work by the winning science journalists, but also the breadth and impact of the global scientific enterprise. Journalists can bring their audiences a touch of wonder about the world in which we live, but they also can shine a needed light on the institutions and processes of science and how they are performing under often difficult circumstances. I'm particularly struck this year by the geographical diversity of the winning entries, selected from more than 1,000 entries from 63 countries. Since going global in 2015, the AAAS Kavli competition truly has become an international measure of excellence for science journalism that matters. Let me now introduce Stacey Bailey, the Director of Communications at the Kavli Foundation.
Thank you, Sudip. The Kavli Foundation loves these awards too. And what a remarkable year of awardees. Congratulations to you all. And a very special thank you to the screeners, the journalist judges, our host, Laura Helmuth, and Earl Lane and Emily Hughes, the impeccable team at AAAS that manages this wonderful awards program. Laura?
Thanks, Stacey. Now let's meet our winners. For excellence in reporting for a large outlet, the Silver Award goes to Christoph von Eichhorn, Sandra Hartung, Christian Helton, and Sarah Unterhitzenberger of the Süddeutsche Zeitung in Germany. It's for an online multimedia piece showing the structure and behavior of the coronavirus at the atomic level. These are not just pretty illustrations of the nanoworld dreamed up by an artist, they wrote. The scientists have built the model atom by atom with all the information known about the structure of SARS-CoV-2. The virus particle alone consists of 305 million atoms, and the whole aerosol particle contains more than 1 billion atoms. Judge Robert Lee Holtz of the Alicia Patterson Foundation said the team took full creative advantage of the new technology of visual media to show viewers and readers in revealing detail what makes variants like Delta and Omicron so dangerous, and where the pathogen itself might be vulnerable. Here's Christoph von Eichhorn to accept the award.
It's such an honor to be in the company of so many esteemed science journalists all over the world. On behalf of my team, I'd like to thank the jury for awarding us with the AAAS Kavli Award for Science Journalism. Our research and reporting into the anatomy of the coronavirus has taught me that even the tiniest of things, in the magnitude of a few nanometers, can harbor the most interesting story. And for that insight, I would especially like to thank Professor Romy Amaro from the UC San Diego, because without her groundbreaking work on the molecular dynamics of the coronavirus, our reporting would not have been possible. And I'd like to extend this thank you to all of you scientists convened at the AAAS, because without your work in general, science journalism would not be possible. Thank you for that.
For excellence in science reporting for a large outlet, the Gold Award goes to Juliet Alperin and Salwan Georges of The Washington Post for using a single majestic Sitka spruce tree, which is the height of a 17-story building, to spotlight the battle over increasingly scarce old-growth timber. The tree's fortunes are bound up in the politics of timber and climate change thousands of miles away in Washington, D.C. Alperin wrote that the slash of blue paint designating the tree for cutting might as well be a question mark. Is this tree worth more to us alive or dead? Judge Sarah Wild, a South African freelance science writer, praised the story for bringing together the complexities of climate change, colonialism, industrial interests, and indigenous rights, calling it a remarkable achievement. Juliet and Salwan are now two-time AAAS Kavli winners. Here they are to accept the award.
To create a story like this, it takes a collaboration from the whole newsroom and folks in Alaska who know the place better than anyone.
We are grateful to our editors, Trish Wilson and Olivier Laurent, who embraced our vision and helped guide this project. Garland Potts, Matt Callahan, Julie Vitkovskaya, Lori Montgomery, and Marianne Galan, along with other colleagues, provided critical support.
While we were on the ground, we worked with local people who helped us find our tree, like Marina Anderson and Michael Kupnach and the U.S. Forest Service.
We decided to tell the story of one tree, which represents thousands, all of which are facing threats, and which will help determine the balance when it comes to climate change. Thank you.
For excellence in science reporting for a small outlet, the Silver Award goes to Liza Gross and Anne Marshall-Chalmers of Inside Climate News for a story challenging a California Water Board's assertion that oil field wastewater is safe for use in irrigation of almonds and other crops. After reviewing the science and interviewing experts, including a public health scientist affiliated with the project, Gross and Marshall-Chalmers found little evidence to support the board's safety claims. GSI Environmental, which was retained by the board as a neutral consultant to conduct the safety studies, had regularly worked for the oil industry, Gross found. More than a fifth of the chemicals GSI identified, and 60% of those deemed most likely to pose a health risk, lacked both toxicity information and approved testing methods. Judge Lauren Weber of The Washington Post said the reporting exposed not just the conflicts of interest, but also painstakingly explained the science behind it all. Here is Liza Gross.
I'm so grateful to AAAS and the Kavli Foundation for this award and for recognizing the type of intensive reporting required to uncover the abuse of science in the public interest. I've long reported on how vested interests skew scientific results. So when I discovered that California regulators used oil industry consultants to say it's safe to grow crops with oil industry wastewater, I knew there was a story there. But I needed help to navigate the highly technical science. So I'd like to thank Seth Shonkoff, who runs the nonprofit research institute PSE Healthy Energy, for his invaluable help. I'd also like to thank my Inside Climate News editor, Vernon Loeb, who gave me the time and space to really dig into this complex science. Thanks also to my colleague, Anne Marshall-Chalmers, who contributed reporting. We're all deeply honored to receive this award alongside such distinguished journalists.
For excellence in science reporting for a small outlet, the Gold Award goes to Ankur Paliwal for a story published by 52, an online outlet in India. He wrote about a rare genetic disease called spinocerebellar ataxia that has been causing people in rural India to gradually lose control over their movements. Eventually, many ataxia patients in resource-strapped countries like India end up spending their days in bed, depending on others, until they die, Paliwal wrote. He describes the work of a few determined scientists and doctors who have been trying to unravel the mysteries of the disease. Judge Robert Lee Holtz of the Alicia Patterson Foundation said Paliwal's exploration of the emotional consequences of the disease is matched by his explanation of the scientific effort to understand its molecular biology. In this story of life, death, and DNA, Holtz said, Paliwal raised the craft of science journalism to the level of literature. This is the second year in a row that a piece from 52 has won the Gold Award in this category. Here is Ankur.
As a journalist and as a queer person, I've always been drawn to stories of underreported communities and places. For this story, I wanted to show what it really means to live with and research a rare disease in India. I chose spinocerebellar ataxia, which causes people to lose control over their body's movements, like walking, holding a cup of tea, hailing a taxi, or holding your loved ones. While some scientists are determined to improve the lives of these patients, they are faced with enormous challenges, including the lack of funding. I'm deeply grateful to all the families and scientists who allowed me in their lives and hearts. Thanks so much to the editors of 52 who uplifted the story. And thanks to AAAS Kavli for recognizing this story.
The Silver Award for Science Reporting in Depth goes to Beijing-based Jane Chu for a piece in MIT Technology Review on the Chinese scientist at the center of the COVID-19 lab leak controversy. Chu was able to gain unparalleled access to the Wuhan Institute of Virology and the lab of Shi Zhengli. Known as China's Batwoman, Shi has devoted her career to tracing links between coronaviruses in bats and human disease. Shi's lab was the first to isolate the deadly new virus and the first to sequence its genome. Shi has been subject to intense international scrutiny and charges that an errant virus from her lab, rather than a natural jump of the virus from animal to human, might have triggered the COVID-19 pandemic. Hugh doesn't resolve the controversy and says there may never be a definitive answer, but she offers a detailed review of the science being pursued by Shi Zhengli and her colleagues. Judge Richard Harris, formerly of NPR, said Chu's diligent and careful reporting gave her readers deep insight into a realm that has been shrouded in secrecy. Here is Jane, now a two-time winner of the AAAS Kavli Award.
Searching for the origins of COVID has turned out to be an incredibly difficult journey. Winning the award is not just about recognition of my work, but also the important role journalism can and should play in challenging common stereotypes and existing narratives. I would like to thank Konstantin Kokias for commissioning the story and his fantastic first edit, Bobby Johnson for his mastery of narrative long form, David Rodman and Matt Honan for their incredible editorial sense, and Matt Mahoney and James Gaines for their fantastic fact-checking jobs. Lastly, but not the least, thanks also go to David Quammen for believing in the story and for encouraging me to persevere in pitching, and Alex Wiss for checking the balance of the story for me and for being a rock for me throughout this treacherous journey.
The Gold Award for Science Reporting in Depth goes to Lulu Ramadan of the Palm Beach Post and Ashnu, Maya Miller, and Nadia Sussman of ProPublica for the thematic series Black Snow, Big Sugar's Burning Problem. For years, residents in the Glades area of West Central Florida have breathed smoke from sugarcane fires, which are set 6 months of every year as a pre-harvest practice. Locals call the ash that rains down during burning season black snow. While sugar companies and regulators offer assurances that the air is safe, the Palm Beach Post and ProPublica used their own monitoring equipment to show repeated spikes in pollution on days when the state had authorized cane burning. Experts say the spikes posed both short and long-term health risks. Sussman traveled to Brazil, where Sao Paulo officials have largely phased out burning after residents voiced concerns. I served on the judging panel for this category, and I applaud the team's spotlight on Brazilian practices. The typical script is to cover the Global South as a source of environmental problems, but this shows a model for reducing air pollution. Lulu Ramadan will accept the award.
Thank you so much for this award. Our team is very proud of the project that we produced, Black Snow, about sugarcane burning in South Florida. The scientific approach to the project and partnering with academics was a really enriching experience, and it made the reporting so much stronger. We put a lot of time and effort into reaching people in the community and connecting with people who were living among the sugarcane burning, and we're proud we were able to produce a project that was impactful and meaningful for the community and for our news outlets.
For excellence in magazine reporting, the Silver Award goes to Lois Parsley for a story in Grist on the impact of thawing permafrost in Alaska. As the climate warms, the ancient permafrost that covered an estimated 85% of Alaska is disappearing, leaving places where the ground is now collapsing. The disappearance of the ice has fundamentally changed how and where people can live. facing threats such as subsidence, flooding, sinkholes, and landslides. To someone in the north, the natural state of the ground is frozen, one specialist told Partially, and thousands of years of culture are built on that knowledge. Now, as a statewide threat assessment found, 89 of Alaska's 336 communities are threatened by permafrost degradation. Judge Richard Van Norden of Nature said Partially showed how thawing permafrost is affecting societies in Alaska and makes clear the inadequacy of funding for scientific research on the problem and for climate mitigation efforts. Here's Lois.
I'm really honored for this recognition and hopeful that it helps draw attention to how quickly the Arctic is changing and the consequences that has for the people who live here. I'm very thankful to the scientists who were so generous with their time and allowed me to shadow them in the field, getting way more mosquito bites than they needed to in order to answer my questions. I'm also very thankful to my editors at GRIST for their support and for working with the Anchorage Daily News to republish this piece. It's always my goal to have my reporting ring true to both a local and a national audience, and I'm really grateful that this reporting was accessible to the people who are most impacted by it.
The Gold Award for magazine reporting goes to Kendra Pierre-Louis for a piece in MIT Technology Review on how rising groundwater caused by climate change could devastate coastal communities. Unlike rising seas, where the dangers are a bit more obvious, Pierre-Louis reported that groundwater rise has remained under the public's radar. Hydrologists are aware of the problem, and it is the subject of ample scholarly research, she wrote, but it has yet to surface in a significant way outside of those bubbles. Groundwater rise is only briefly mentioned in the most recent edition of the National Climate Assessment, and it is absent from many state and regional climate adaptation plans, and even from flood maps. The impact on existing infrastructure could be catastrophic, she said, and remediation efforts that haven't planned for groundwater rise will be rendered useless. Amanda Bukowitz, a science journalist and producer for CBC Radio Canada, said, "With so many writers tackling climate change these days, this piece was truly a standout, with a well-crafted, engaging narrative combined with rock-solid science reporting." Here is Kendra.
A few years ago, Christina Ludwig, a scientist at USGS, came to me with a warning. Rising groundwater is an underreported climate issue, she said. And to be honest, this idea that as sea level rose, so too would groundwater had escaped my notice. So I started digging into it over time and with increasing horror. As I would eventually write in the piece for which I'm now receiving an award, rising groundwater presents a real and potentially catastrophic threat to our infrastructure. So today, I want to thank the American Association for the Advancement of Science and the Kavli Foundation for recognizing the importance of this issue and granting me this award. I want to thank Christina Ludwig for alerting me to this topic, and Christina Hill and my sources, especially Christina Hill, for enduring many rounds of interviews, and Faye Salinas for trusting me with her story. Finally, I'd like to thank MIT Tech Review for publishing this story, and David Barron for his careful edits.
The Silver Award for Video Spot News Feature Reporting goes to Yara Elmjoui, Adrian Blaine, Shadi Rahimi, Matthias Sesti, and Michael Bendek of AJ+, an outlet of the Al Jazeera Media Network. The winning segment reported on a subset of COVID-19 survivors who suffer from an unexpected side effect known as parosmia, a condition that causes the sense of smell to go haywire. Coffee may smell like sewage, or chicken may smell like rotting garbage. Elmjoui and his collaborators set out to learn how COVID-19 is doing this to people, and what life is like when you smell and taste all the wrong things with no end in sight. Judge Angela Saini, a British science journalist and author, said, "Through fascinating case studies, we learn not only how devastating COVID-19 symptoms have been for certain people, but also learn to appreciate the one sense we often take for granted, taste." Yara, host and senior producer at AJ+, accepts the award.
So first off, on behalf of everyone who was involved with this project at AJ+, I really want to thank you all for recognizing our short documentary about parosmia. It's a condition that causes our sense of smell to go completely haywire, and it's become a strangely common side effect of long COVID. People with parosmia have said that coffee smells like sewage or chicken smells like rotting garbage. It's so bad in some cases that it's made it near impossible for some to enjoy the mere act of eating. But the thing is, there wasn't that much research done about it because up until COVID, it was an extremely rare condition that was poorly understood. But the more patients we spoke to, the more we learned about how isolating the experience was, how folks felt like their symptoms were being dismissed. We felt a sense of urgency at AJ Plus to reflect these voices to the world, to highlight those who felt they weren't being seen in medical circles in hopes of flagging it on more scientists' radars. And, well, we wanted to show how COVID continues to leave an indelible imprint on our planet. So with that, thank you all again.
The Gold Award for Video Spot News Feature Reporting goes to Josh Cassidy, Gabriela Quiros, Leslie McClurg, Elise DeFranco, Tedros Hailea, Kia Simon, and Seth Samuel for 3 segments of the long-running Deep Look series created by KQED San Francisco and distributed by PBS Digital Studios. The filmmakers explored unusual creatures doing unusual things at the edge of the visible world, like the honeypot ants who turn their biggest sisters into engorged jugs of nectar to help feed the ant colony. I found myself riveted by these cinematic little videos about the ultra-small, said Judge David Barron, an author and former broadcast science journalist. Spectacularly shot, creatively written, and theatrically scored, they reveal the fascinating lives of creatures we normally ignore. Gabriela will accept the award.
Hi, I'm Gabriela Quiros, the coordinating producer for Deep Look. We love making these short videos about the surprising ways in which small animals, plants, and fungi make a living. So we're delighted that the judges picked up on our excitement and decided to select our series for this award. On behalf of the Deep Look team, of KQED Public Media in San Francisco, and of PBS Digital Studios, thank you so much for recognizing Deep Look.
The Silver Award for Video In-Depth Reporting goes to Bella Falk and David Dugan for Ice Age Footprints, a Nova production by Windfall Films Limited, which is part of the Argonon Group for GBH. Thousands of ancient footprints left by Ice Age humans and animals such as mammoths and enormous ground sloths stretch for miles across the bright white landscape of New Mexico's White Sands National Park. Where the chemistry is just right, tracks can last for thousands of years, hidden beneath the dunes. Experts are investigating how these tracks could show new evidence of people who lived on the North American continent earlier than archaeologists had previously known. Judge Blythe Terrell of Gimlet Media said the filmmakers did a masterful job covering the complexities of the science while keeping viewers engaged. They also effectively placed the story in the cultural context as it relates to indigenous communities in the U.S., Terrell said. Dugan is now a 2-time winner of the AAAS Kavli Award. Here is Bella to accept for the team.
First of all, on behalf of myself, executive producer David Dugan, and the team at Windfall Films, I'd like to thank AAAS and the Kavli Foundation judges for this amazing award. The discovery of ancient human footprints alongside the tracks of extinct Ice Age animals is an incredible story. Not only does it reveal previously unknown secrets of early human life, but it's also allowed experts to make a huge leap forward in their understanding of the history of human migration into the Americas. So it was reward enough just to be able to highlight the work of the scientists uncovering their secrets. And winning this award really is the icing on the cake. So thank you so much to the judges, to Nova for commissioning the film, and of course to the scientists at White Sands for trusting us to tell their story.
The Gold Award for Video In-Depth Reporting goes to David Allen, Martin Dorn, Gabby Bastira, David Guy Elisco, Sean B. Carroll, and Fred Kaufman for the PBS Nature documentary, My Garden of 1,000 Bees. For more than 30 years, Martin Dorn has filmed wild animals around the world. Suddenly locked down at home due to the COVID-19 pandemic, he became fascinated with the wild bees that inhabit his city garden. Turning my camera onto my own backyard is revealing things as spectacular as anything I have ever seen before, he tells his viewers. The resulting documentary is an exercise in citizen science, driven by Dorn's deep understanding of the more than 60 species of bees he observed in his garden. Judge Michael Werner, a science journalist and film producer, praised Dorn's stunning cinematography. Making this all the more impressive, Warner said, is how difficult it is to film creatures this small and fast. Sean B. Carroll, head of the HHMI Tangled Bank Studios, is now a 2-time AAAS Kavli Award winner. Here is Martin to accept on behalf of the team.
This film was a bit of a surprise baby. I'd thought about making it for almost a decade as I gradually got to know the wild bees in my garden, but I decided against it as there was no interest from broadcasters. And then along came COVID lockdown, creating a unique set of conditions which meant I could proceed regardless. I had the cameras, why not? There was nothing else to do. At first, I was just having fun in the garden, struggling to work out how to film the bees. They were much more difficult than I had anticipated. But what I learned in that struggle really opened my eyes to looking at bees and other insects in a new way. Dave Allen of Passion Pictures has now become interested. Fred Kaufman offered a slot on Nature, and Dave Alisco and Sean Carroll of HHMI Tangled Bank Studios offered funding to get the film over the line. All of this was a wonderful surprise. But in many ways, the biggest surprise of all is to be awarded this prize for science journalism. I really didn't expect anything like this and am honored to be recognized in this way. Many, many thanks.
The Silver Award for Audio goes to Anne Jones, Petria Ladgrove, Joel Warner, and Joe Kahn of the Australian Broadcasting Corporation for an episode of their What the Duck radio show. The team took on a topic not often broached in polite circles, but one that has intrigued zoologists and others curious about animal behavior. Does it fart? From whales, manatees, and herring to chimps, bonobos, Tasmanian devils, and hognose snakes, the program provided answers to this central question and discussed the science behind using farts as a means of communication, defense, change in buoyancy for sea creatures, and even predatory advantage in the case of beaded lacewing larvae that expel a chemical mix that paralyzes termites. Judge Tony Bartlemay of the Charleston, South Carolina Post and Courier called it a very clever laugh-out-loud entry that incorporates serious science into a topic that's relatable to all. Anne accepts the award for the team.
On behalf of the team, we're really honoured to receive this award from the AAAS and the Kavli Foundation. And I have to say, for me, it was a bit of a surprise because I've been broadcasting and podcasting for over 10 years now. But of course, it was a story about farts that got us over the line. I know the team feels the same. So thank you from Petria Ladgrove, Joe Kahn, and Joel Werner. But the biggest thanks of all has to go to Danny Rabiotti and Nick Caruso for their fart book, and also to all the scientists who shared their gaseous data with us. Because let's face it, without scientists, science journalism would just be all hot air. So thank you.
The Gold Award for Audio goes to Ariel Duhem-Ross, Julia Nutter, Pran Bondi, Annie Aviles, and Pete Lang-Stanton of the Vice News podcast, A Show About Animals. The winning entry was a series on the highly visible and often controversial efforts to teach apes to learn sign language. The team reviewed a project started in the 1970s by a psychologist named Penny Patterson, who claimed to have taught a gorilla named Coco to learn more than 1,000 signs. But critics suggested Coco was simply being prompted by her trainer's unconscious cues. Duhem-Ross notes that new efforts are underway to understand how animals might be able to communicate with us, and more importantly, how they communicate among themselves. Judge Alexandra Witze, a freelance science journalist, called the Vice entry an evocative exploration of whether and how animals can communicate across species. Ariel, now a 2-time winner of the AAAS Kavli Award, accepts on behalf of the team.
Hi, I am sitting here accepting this award as the host of A Show About Animals, but there are 4 other people named on this award: Julia, Annie, Pete, and Pran. I'm so grateful for your brilliance. It was a dream to work alongside you. On behalf of our team, we'd also like to thank Kate Osborne. This award is also yours. We'd also like to thank Layli Rizvani, Maximo Anderson, and Steve Bone for their production support, Janet Lee for helping us launch this thing, Rose Eveleth for listening and offering their insight, and Vice for believing in us. I was once a weird little kid who loved animals, and throughout the making of this podcast, I was able to interview a bunch of other researchers who were once also little kids who loved animals, and it was an absolute dream. I have never loved making a show as much as I loved making this one, so having it recognized by AAAS means the world to me. Thank you so much on behalf of our entire team.
The Silver Award for Children's Science News goes to Da-Sol Lee of Kids Donga Science in South Korea. In an ambitiously comprehensive look at the state of South Korea's zoos, the publication enlisted children as zoo guards to help report on regulated and unregulated zoos near their homes. Under the guidance of veterinarians and other professionals, the teams of children found more than 150 facilities that did not need to register as zoos. Most of them were animal experience centers such as raccoon cafes and parrot cafes, which have raised concerns about possible zoonotic disease outbreaks. Even the regulated zoos were not without issues. Judge Roxanne Kamsey, a Canada-based freelance science journalist, said, "I was totally blown away by how these articles tackled really adult topics, such as the neglect of animals in a zoo environment, in a way that got the information across in an age-appropriate way." Here is Da-Sol to accept the award.
Thank you for this award. Our article is a result of a survey for animal welfare at the zoo by 800 young readers. So I'd like to express my gratitude to them. Also, I want to thank our team, 최태규, 마승혜, 김정, 이명주, 최은영, 정혜인, and everyone at Donga Science for making this big project possible. I'm also grateful to my friends, Subin, Yeongyong, and Yoon-sun for their ideas and celebrations. Recently, the zoo law in South Korea has been revised, and we are taking a big step towards better zoos. This is so great news for us, so I wanted to share it all with you. Thank you.
The Gold Award for Children's Science News goes to Sarah Zelinsky, Maria Temming, and Joanna Wendell of Science News Explorers. The winning stories discussed how cockatoos teach each other how to open garbage bins, how pandas stand out in zoos but blend into their environment in the wild, and how researchers managed to put goldfish in the driver's seat in an experimental apparatus that allows them to maneuver across a room. The judges applauded the comic strip format of the entries. Rory Galloway, podcast producer for The Economist, said, "These comics were a truly delightful way to bring science to life, from cockatoos opening bins to fish driving cars. The authors and illustrator explained the scientific process with light touch in a way that was both fun and hugely engaging for young people." Here is Sarah to accept on behalf of the team.
People often have this idea that comics are just superheroes or silly jokes. Worse, over this past year, we've seen the format vilified as somehow dangerous for kids, and graphic novels have been subject to book bans. But comics are a great way to tell stories to people of any age, and especially to children who might otherwise find huge chunks of text, even well-written ones, difficult to consume. And so Joanna, Maria, and I would like to thank AAAS, the Kavli Foundation, and the judges for honoring our work and recognizing that comics can be a great way to tell science stories. We'd also like to thank our colleagues at Science News Explorers, without whom we could not have done this work, and also the scientists who were so enthusiastic in helping us turn their stories and sometimes even themselves into comics.
Congratulations to all of the winners. Thanks to the AAAS and the Kavli Foundation for supporting these awards. Thanks to the judges, thanks to the screeners, and thanks to everyone who entered this contest. For the science journalists out there, please do submit your best work for the next round of awards. I hope you have been inspired by this year's winners.
Well, thank you for joining us. We'll be posting the award ceremony to our website, sjawards.AAAS.org. You can also go there for a news release that has links to the winning entries. For those viewing this live stream at the AAAS annual meeting, we invite you to join us for a wine and cheese reception celebrating the winners. It will be held in the lounge area of the exhibit hall beginning at 2:30 p.m. Congratulations once again to all of our winners.